From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Jennifer Landa. Oh my gosh, I forgot. We have a new order.
A new order. And I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and as I look at the screen, my head is too large. But I'll figure that out in the new year, a way to back away from the camera so my head size matches my co-host.
That's no moon. Joseph Scrimshaw.
God, his head is huge.
We're here to discuss Star Wars news, which is a little bit of news, but also we're going to look back on 2024 as the year is coming to a close. And I don't like looking at calendars because it reminds me how fast things are going. Oh, man. I was going down a music video YouTube rabbit hole, and you're like, oh, I love this video from 15 years ago. And then your mind goes. But here we are. Before we get to all that, I'm going to invite you to today's podcast. It's brought to you by Audible. As always, get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles and growing to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are recommending Star Wars Dark Disciple by Christy Golden. It is an oldie but a goodie at this point. But download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book. Check out that book, A Sage Ventress Factoring into the Year. So that's one of the reasons we bring it up there. But that's our Audible A. We have our Ask. And I was going to get an update, Joseph, but we're very close on our goals.
Oh, good. We are. Yes. Here, I will do a live double check of our goals. Our goal is to get to 420 paid members on our Patreon. And I think we are getting very close, but Patreon makes me click lots of things before I can see you. Ooh, yes. We are at 418 checking live on our recording. So we are very, very close. We had a goal of 415, which unlocked a private stream. A private stream for ForceCenter Patreons only. And we will, triple X-Wing, private. We will be doing that in the new year, and there'll be nothing naughty about it. It'll be so wholesome. Bring the kids, as long as they're Patreon members. It'll be a private Patreon for paid members of all ages and your family. Anyway, we're looking forward to doing that in the new year of 2025. And we are so lucky to be close to that 420 goal as well. Again, we really appreciate all of the support on Patreon over the years, going through the books as we get toward the end of the year. And it is without a doubt the biggest contribution to being able to us keep going, keep doing this, growing, trying new things. So thank you to everyone who's been a Patreon member for a long time or for a month. It's a huge help. We also want to remind you that we are on Threads and Blue Sky. We're enjoying Blue Sky in particular. So if you want to join us there, I think Blue Sky has the closest to the old Twitter experience where you've got, you got some people angry about stuff, but you also just have some fun and some discussion and some community. A lot of Neil love on Blue Sky, so join us over there.
Yeah, well said indeed on all that. It's been fun over there. I could be more of my true self. I could talk about committee ethics reports being released and Neil if I want, all in the same spot.
Exactly. So back to you, Ken.
Oh, back to me indeed. We are also going to have that. Wait, did you say that? No. We're going to have a live stream on Friday.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that one.
No, you shouldn't have.
We can make it. We can make it to the end.
It's always a getaway day, even though we do have shows at the end of this week, post-Christmas, Skeleton Crew review, and this end of the year live stream as we look ahead to 2025 in Star Wars on Friday, December 27th, 2 p.m. Pacific. Joseph and I will be there. Jennifer, you're going to try to be there. We want people are always like, we want Jennifer in those live streams. Like Jennifer has 2 kids and is a full-time student. All right, she wants to be there too, but hopefully we'll see your face.
Yes, it's a lot. They have 3 weeks off of school.
Oh boy!
And it's like Lord of the Flies. It's rough.
Jennifer, how would you ever feel about just being on camera studying in the background during a live stream? So Ken and I would be doing the talking, and people could just watch you flipping through your iPad or however people study these days. Do you have physical books that you read? Do you have highlighters?
They're online, but then I have all my study materials. So I have like stacks of different notebooks where I've taken notes and my transcriptions, and I'm compiling. It'd be a mess. It would not be enjoyable. I mean, yelling and saying things out loud.
But you could be muted, and it could just be in the background. It could be like the fireplaces that Netflix has of different shows. And you'd be like,
Yes.
look, Jennifer is on the live stream, but she's studying.
Yes, and I have an interruption. I'm sorry. Okay,
No problem.
good. Continue, chat.
Love it indeed. Should we get to some news? Or
Yeah.
we got a couple things here. I'll talk. Let's start with a happier one, maybe potentially, real quickly. Bad Batch. The story goes on in publishing? ? This is not officially confirmed, but sharp internet sleuths discovered that Penguin Publishing's website, maybe the UK website too, the link I have is .co.uk, has listed a book titled Star Wars Sanctuary with an August 5th, 2025 release. Lamar Giles is a listed author, and this is a Bad Batch novel. So again, no other word on what it would be about or what time period it would cover in the Bad Batch story, going forward, going back. We know there's that comic series was released earlier this year, I believe. That is kind of previous missions of Bad Batch before the show started. So general thoughts of what this book could be, what we want from a Bad Batch book, Joseph. This is we love the Bad Batch. This is how you want the story.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always would love to see characters on screen because it makes a bigger cultural impact in general. I don't think any one medium is better than another, but I always want to see them on screen because more people will see them.
Yeah.
But that said, iRepublic is incredibly popular in that. I love the idea of a Bad Batch book because I think one of the things that makes a Bad Batch show so powerful is the characters are so well defined. And in a book, you can just spend so much time going into their perspectives. And in particular, like, imagine reading the inner thoughts of Wrecker and seeing how complicated are they? or is he just thinking about food and dolls and friends? And, you know, but he's still waters run deep. You know, there's a lot going on there about what he loves and what he fears to lose and how he feels about violence. And, oh, man, I would love to go deeper into their psychology the way that a book can in particular. So I'm really thrilled with the book idea. Got a lot of different ideas and speculation about timeline, but that's my big picture reaction.
Love it. I agree with you there. And Jen, we're making jokes about it up top, but I'm going to guess you don't have a lot of time to read a Bad Batch novel, even if you want.
So I follow this woman who is she's the Cozy Gamers. I don't know if that's her handle on Instagram. And she shows herself with her Kindle reading books, and she has all these blankets piled on top of her and her cat that she pets. And I look at that and I'm like, oh, I would love to have that life. And on my Kindle would be this Star Wars Sanctuary book. And instead, my daughter just informed me that orange juice is all over downstairs. That's the world that I live in. But I aspire to be like Cozy Gamers lady, reading a wonderful Bad Batch novel on her Kindle, petting her cat.
If it helps, Jen, I'm almost 49, and I had peach juice all over my face and desk yesterday.
No, really?
I mean, I'm a messy drinker.
Oh, no.
So it's not just
my
your
gosh.
kids. It's not just you.
Gosh. Okay, that makes me feel better.
Okay.
But I love that they're diving into more of the Bad Batch stories. I think that it sounds kind of far off for me to imagine myself reading it, but I think that there's a lot to mine there, getting into the heads of our favorite characters, their relationships. I don't know what this is about. That's pretty cool.
I love the idea, and Joseph, you really touched on something that I hadn't thought of. Inside the mind of Wrecker. It's a beautiful thing. Smash, eat, grab. It's like a chihuahua. But I'm excited for the possibility. And no secret. I pulled off reading the books, schedule, life, a lot of reasons, and things that might come up in our year in review, but none of it like negative. Like I don't want to read these books. And this one's got me kind of excited for curling up with a Star Wars book. I just won't brag about it to Jen, but just diving into these characters. I love these characters, and you're right, Joseph. They are distinct. And remember how in the beginning we thought, "Wow, A-team in space, we get it. The wild guy, the strong guy, the nerd guy." It's so far surpassed that kind of tropey kind of approach to storytelling that I am interested in more, or stories before, or stories after, or both. It could go both directions, and that's a lot of fun. So this little blurb got me a little excited for the Bad Batch news.
Yeah, me too. And you're not alone in making a mess, Ken. I've been making time to read in the morning, so it's just been a priority while I can, while I'm not as busy as I have been. So like, I get up and I eat my granola bar and I read, and I was thinking, like, I'm being such a mature adult. This is so great. And then I noticed on the couch there was like a granola silhouette around where I sat from all the granola crumbs that had
Yeah.
built up over 4 days of being a really mature, responsible, cozy adult. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. So now I read and I vacuum
It's,
at the same
great.
time.
you know,
Yeah.
it's not me, man. I feel like Consuelo. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. The forks don't work, man. The forks don't work.
Remember when forks were good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway,
Garlic noodles all over my shirt last night.
oh my gosh.
I want to discuss a little briefly, then we'll move on from the story because there's not much to the story. And it's not even like it's a rumor. I mean, it's on the link to the Penguin Books website there. But you mentioned stuff, Joseph, there about the kind of stories and other forms of media. We are not suggesting that novels or comics or games are less than. We always try to make that clear. It's just a reality to it that live action, animation, movies, there is a pecking order, and that means there could be some, I don't know, inherent disappointment when you're like, oh, a novel versus Sanctuary, the Bad Batch spinoff, or something like that, which is maybe not as realistic. I'm excited about this book, but I know that there's still Acolyte novels coming, and that might be more than bittersweet. It might be painful. So, Jen, especially with the Acolyte story there, thoughts on other forms of media for the stories?
It is interesting, especially with the Acolyte, where it does make me wonder, were they really gunning for a second season? Was that kind of like a soft, I don't know, idea that was going to be happening, hence why all the cancellation news and rumors, whatever. So yeah, for me, I would prefer to have it in live action. With this though, with the Bad Batch, I feel like it was such a wonderful ending to the series, and I felt closure as a fan, that this is just kind of like icing on the cake. But with Acolyte, yeah, it's definitely it makes me a little angry.
Give in to your anger. Yeah, I feel that, and I agree with you too in regards to the Bad Batch. It's complete, and so therefore that's wrapped up in a nice little way, that show. But you have so many questions that still remain, and you have that almost that Star Wars daydream of what else could they do or what else did happen. So I think this will scratch that itch for me, Joseph. But you?
yeah. I mean, I think we talk about books as being, to me, they're not less than at all. It is just in the immediate, there are fewer eyes. Like,
Yeah,
I just had that
yeah.
great conversation with my old friend from high school and college, and he had watched every Disney Plus show. I don't think he's read every book, and there's that. But then you also look at like what is going on in Star Wars storytelling right now. Well, a lot of the talk is about bringing Heir to the Empire to the screen, and it's hard to go, books are less than, when Heir to the Empire and that whole era of Star Wars storytelling in novel form was a lot of people's entry to Star Wars. So it is such a mixed bag. I think for me, I'm really curious what the timeline of this book is, and I think that will affect how I feel about it. I'm sure there's a fun novel in let's follow them during the Clone Wars. Is Sanctuary a reference to this is a time where they questioned and then really committed to the war? We're not just born into this, we're choosing to believe in the Clone War. We're choosing to believe in the Republic. That could be an interesting story. Could be set during the run of the series, like between season 1 and 2. You could follow a lot of the characters and get a little bit of Omega's growth. But the title Sanctuary makes me feel like, is this going to be forward looking? Is this going to be related to Pabu in particular? Because we all had those fears that, Pabu is going to be destroyed. Molly Damon spotted Pabu being destroyed, and we're all like, well, that's it. And then we ended on this happy note of like, they actually do have a place to hide. So it would make sense to me if it was a story in between the end of the story in season 3 and the jump forward in time. Like, is there a time during Imperial rule where Pabu is threatened again? And is that what Sanctuary is about? Or is it really leaping forward and being a continuation? And this is Omega joining the Rebel Alliance, and her, her uncle dad's coming out of retirement to help her during the Galactic Civil War. And I think that's the only one that would sting a little, because I think it would be like the Acolyte books would be like, and we're making these because You're not seeing him again on screen. It's the same way all the Kira storytelling kind of stings, because like I love Kira and I want that character to continue, and I'm grateful that character is continuing. I can't wait to read the Kira book that came out. Johnston, right?
E.K. Johnston wrote it. Yep.
E.K. Johnston. Can't wait to read that. But every one of those books is another like notice being nailed to the board of like, Amelia Clark's not coming back. You're not seeing her on screen again. Bang, 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 bang.
Yep.
So I think if this book was set during the Galactic Civil War, it would make me feel a little bad that we're maybe not seeing Omega's story continue in a bigger way.
Yeah, I agree with that too, and definitely agree with that on the Kira of it all. I love that there's Kira storytelling, and there's fans of Kira out there like us. But yeah, I'm always kind of like, that means maybe, but we'll see. Who knows? It could also stuck to time. I don't know. I also just have that, Afra's never hit the screen. And I'm always like, how does that happen? That's a beloved character that's been around for years, and it's just locked away here, unfortunately. So, anyways, I'm with you on that too, and going forward would be interesting, but I think there's other ways to go forward. But I like the middle time because it could have just be Bad Batch, Star Wars Sanctuary, the tween years for Omega. Like it's just her kind of. We just got a lot of wrecker fishing, like just kind of a calm book, 400 pages of hanging out on Pabu.
Love it. Crosshair teaching them to shoot the fish from afar.
Yeah. You don't have to go to the water to fish. That's one quick story. We do have another one, Joseph, we want to swing through here before we look back on 2024, but it very much has a effect and cause on our conversation, I should say, looking back. Anyways, we got a little information about the cancellation of the Acolyte.
Yeah, big emphasis on little. I saw a lot of the kind of headlines from places trying to really make people argue in the comments for views. Put it that way, the way the headlines were framed. Turns out it was a Variety article, and then when I looked up the Variety article, it was from an interview with Vulture. So there you go. But the Variety article is really short and to the point. It is about here. I'll just read the very top of it. A Disney exec has revealed why the Acolyte was canceled after just one season. In an interview with Vulture, co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, Alan Bergman, said while the House of Mouse was pleased with how the Acolyte performed in its single-season Disney Plus debut, it wasn't enough to justify a follow-up considering the price tag. Quote, "We were happy with our performance, but it wasn't where it needed to be given the cost structure of that title, quite frankly, to go and make a season 2, Bergman said. So that's the reason why we didn't do that." I suspect that we will all discuss as we get into our look back on Star Wars in 2024, the thrills and the pains of Acolyte, its performance, and it's not being renewed. There was also a news blip the other day about Andor Season 2 being, I think, one of the most expensive things that Star Wars has made, that Disney has Star Wars has made. And we've discussed before how Andor is a critical darling, but doesn't have the numbers. I think Acolyte's numbers were even lower than Andor Season 1. But in a way, I feel like this isn't... It's news, right? In that a member of the company said this legitimate piece of information, but also the member of the company, it's got some spin to it, right? They want to remove any... I would assume that they want to remove any emotion, any deeper discussion. Just go, it's black and white, it's on paper. And maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. I'm sure it's a part of it. I have some thoughts and theories and just total opinion and conjecture about why the Acolyte is not being renewed and why they're out there talking about it. But Jennifer, what are your thoughts?
I think that it's a cop-out. I think that it's like you're saying, it's much easier to point to, well, the numbers, and yeah, it was an expensive show. And I think it had a lot of things against it. I think that they did not like the narrative, the conversation around it. They didn't like that it was so controversial to not just like the toxic fan base, but also to other fans who were like, this is not my Star Wars. This does not resonate with me. And so even though it did receive some critical acclaim, I think that it's harder to greenlight a show that's causing such divisiveness and is expensive. With Tony Gilroy, he is freaking Tony Gilroy. It's very different to greenlight a project for him where he's not getting the numbers, but he is so established in the industry. He is a veteran. He has name recognition, right? It's very different than Leslie Headland, who I'm sure that they enjoyed working with. But it's just like they can justify it, especially where we are headed in this country. We're going to see a lot of changes being made. We already saw it with this Pixar movie that's coming out. Storylines are going to be changed a little bit, deleted, not going to be as controversial, quotes, or, defined as like wokeness, all this stuff. So I think that this all comes into play. But at the end of the day, he's not going to say that. He's just going to say, well, the numbers. It was an expensive show.
Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a face value truth to what he's saying that he describes the cop out. Jim, my Uncle Jim just popped in my mind. You know why? Because I yell at my Uncle Jim a lot about what he calls wokeness. So that's why it's on my mind. Yeah, I think it's a cop out, Jen, and but I also think it's true. Case in point, like you could say, look, we were attacked. We're defending ourselves. We have that right. Also, in our defense, we've decimated every living being. Sorry, we're just defending ourselves. Legally, it's okay, right? We see that happen a lot in time in history and with people. This might be that case to me. It was expensive. The ratings were down. It had some questions and issues, and did we like it or this and that? Cut it. I think that's the answer, but beneath it is all these other truths and all these other factors. And a lot of the online conversation, as I always go to, I bang this gavel and gong a lot of the channels with the red eyes and the thumbnails are doing their thing, but then 6 or 7 like circles out are the normal general fans who are like, oh, I heard the show was bad. And that might come from that. And again, shows can be bad, shows can be good. We all have different likes and opinions on shows here too. But I think it ripples out, boom, 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 boom. And so that it is a factor. And it does factor into the numbers. And then it does factor into that. So there's a great truth in what he's saying. And like you said, Jen, it's a shield to all the other reasons that might be discussed. And I don't have any, I'm not in the meetings. I don't have any verifiable information. But yeah, the tone and tenor of the world right now, the people at the top are concerned about these just numbers, the investors, and anything that might shake them off. They're all cowards at their core. So anything that might shake them off of that, not just in Star Wars, but anything, yeah, I do think you're going to see a little bit of this kind of stuff. Like you mentioned, the Pixar removing a transgender storyline that was probably a blip on the radar, 5 seconds. So got to get that out. I think you're going to see more of that, and it's going to affect all stories and all franchises.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. I think that I have no doubt that what he said is true. I just don't think it is the entire truth.
Right.
And I see that discussion all the time. It's like, what's online? What's the issue? It cost too much. It was too expensive, so they didn't greenlight it. And like, yes, I agree, but there is more to the story than that. That things are complicated. I think that I also see people talking about like, well, how it could be so expensive. Well, actors. There are a lot of name actors in not even like superstar Ewan McGregor, but like. Compare this to Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, it had a big cast.
I think Skeleton Crew looks better than almost any of the Disney Plus shows, and it's because they got one guy to pay, pretty much.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think the level of talent and the level of cast, not just the talent, but like that's a massive ensemble show, and I think a season 2 would continue to be a massive ensemble show with name actors. So I think that's a part of the price of why it was expensive. I have no idea. Was the show well run? Did it go over budget over time? We don't know those kind of things, and maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I also think, along with all of the cultural stuff that's going on, along with the sudden like, hey, wait, maybe just shoveling money at streaming shows and having a more, maybe that model doesn't make sense because there are only so many humans on the planet. And that means there's a cap to the cost of a streaming service. There's been that huge realization across the industry. I also feel like from our perspective as audience members, like Ken, you were just saying, like Dr. Aphra's been around for what, like 8 years now?
Almost 11.
10, 11,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That feels like to forever for us, right? But the Acolyte was greenlit 8 years ago, pitched maybe 9, 10 years ago. Maybe that number isn't exactly right, but just
at least 6.
It takes a lot. My point is, I feel like Acolyte is a part of really phase 1 of Disney Plus Star Wars shows. And I think a part of this might also be like, we were heading in one direction with what we wanted to do with Disney Plus Star Wars shows. This one we can cancel because on paper it was too expensive for its popularity. We don't have this relationship like we do with the Tony Gilroy or Dave Filoni. And the other things that we are greenwriting now are all continuations. Whereas this one, we can just go back out of and go, let's re-examine, because this is the kind of show we wanted to do years and years ago, and now we're rethinking it. I think that might be a part of it as well.
Yeah, and Jen, happy to give you any final thoughts here on this one. This is a show that meant a lot to you too. I do think it's important to talk about what you're talking about, Joseph. Of just, yes, there is some actual business to it. You mentioned like phase one, an unofficial phase one streaming. Yeah, I believe this was, announced on Investors Day 2020. It means it'd been in the work 2019 at the earliest.
So 8 years, I was probably misspeaking, but a long time and a part of the philosophy that started years ago with those pitches.
You're not far off on that timeline. But anyways, I do think that's, and I don't mean this to get ahead of any kind of comments or anything like that, but it's like, the business is part of it. And sometimes I'm like, I like the idea of, the business drove a lot of the decisions because I don't want to empower those who felt they took the show down, right? Because I just don't think that's necessarily true. I just think it's multi-layered. And you both are bringing up all the layers here, and I think that's important to the story. So, and everything's still changing. We still don't know what's coming down the line. Anyways.
Nope.
Jen?
No. And I am curious with Skeleton Crew, which I think is, I don't know the numbers. I saw some reports saying that it's not getting as much viewership as they had hoped, but I think that the talk around it is positive. I think that it's a great show. It looks like it came in at whatever budget it was supposed to be, right? It'll be interesting if that gets a second season. If it doesn't, then I really feel like the Acolyte was kind of the precursor to where we were headed with Star Wars stuff and what they're going to be making, right? If it gets a second season, well then, to me, it's pretty clear what was going on with the Acolyte. It's like, it's too controversial, too much negative stuff. Let's just cut it. It was expensive. We don't need that drama, right? It's not pulling in the numbers. It's not pulling in the numbers. But I do wonder if it had been pulling in the numbers and it still had that negative talk, would they have greenlit a second season? I don't know. Although, would they have gotten those numbers? Because like you're saying, Ken, it's this ripple effect. The everyday person is like, oh yeah, I heard that was bad. I came across a video that said that it was bad. So I don't know. Chicken or egg.
And all of it to me has this just detachment from humanity and culture to make everything about numbers and everything about the moment. People could list all of their favorite shows that Cheers would have died after one season, and it never would have been the cultural phenomenon. You can go on and on. Half the beloved films in the world, John Carpenter's The Thing, Office Space, It's a Wonderful Life, all flopped. And I think because we have this reactionary headline, we turn everything into a game, and you're for the Acolyte or you're against the Acolyte, and its fate is a win or a loss for you. Because of that, we're losing all perspective of hey, sometimes culture takes a little time to catch up with a piece of art, or sometimes art just needs a lucky break. It's a Wonderful Life. It's only a classic because there was right shenanigans and it was cheap to play on television in the 80s. That's the only reason that we have this beloved work of art that we all agree is a masterpiece now. So I also feel like that's one of the big tragedies of the Acolyte, of like, what would a season 2 have been? And do we have any room in our culture or soul or for that these days? Since we're talking about it, here's the rest of what Bergman said about what's coming in the future. He said, Disney's latest series from a galaxy far, far away, Skeleton Crew, has already, quote, seen growth, according to Bergman, who is hopeful the Jude Law vehicle will fare better, having received excellent reviews since its December 2nd premiere. Although light on specifics, Bergman went on to tease seasons for Andor, Ahsoka, and a number of other Star Wars shows that are still under consideration. Quote, in terms of what's coming up, we have Andor Season 2, which we're really excited about. It is excellent. I've watched all the episodes, and it is a fantastic season. And then we have Ahsoka Season 2, which Dave Filoni is leading. And then we're looking at a number of additional series that are in development. We'll see what we decide to do. As I said earlier, they have to be great. I think that's good. I think that's a good benchmark. They have to be great.
Sorry. I got lost in you read that quote. I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. They have to be great.
I think that's a good benchmark. They do. They have to be great. Anyway, so that's it. That's it for that news story.
I'm not.
I tell you, it's not great.
And and this isn't just about Star Wars. It is. This isn't an industry podcast, but it's just like I almost laugh as we have more things in development. Of course you do. You're probably not going to greenlight any of them. I can't imagine it right now. Like, no, absolutely not.
We'll see.
It's telling that Skeleton Crew's numbers are growing. Anyways, all right. Plenty of time in 2025 to talk about that.
Yes. All right, I pitch it back to you, Ken.
All right. Because it was a little light on news, though, we ended up having a lot to discuss there on that. We're going to look back on 2025. Now, in the live stream Friday, we're going to look ahead to 2025. Now we're going to look back to 2024. Did I say the wrong year? I probably did. There were many highlights and some lowlights for Star Wars in 2024. Our year-end live stream we'll be looking at, like I said, I'm looking forward to that. But let's look back on the years. There was a great article, StarWars.com. The editorial team put some stuff together, and here's some highlights. Long year. The Bad Batch was brought to an emotional end. Season 3, that happened this year. Tales of the Empire arrived with a closer look at Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss Offee. We finally got those stories there, but it didn't necessarily end, ? We'll see. Anniversaries, 10 years of Star Wars Rebels. 25 years of The Phantom Menace. We could also throw in 10 years of the Force Awakens teaser trailer, which we celebrated here.
5 years of Rise of Skywalker.
5 years of Rise of Skywalker. That's right. And don't forget, we have a Rise of Skywalker commentary on a Patreon page. You want to dive into that. The Acolyte arrived, and, well, its cancellation was a bit of a downer, to say that with a bit of an understated smirk. But the series remains loved and a victory for many fans, and that's part of the year as well. So we'll dive in here. Jen, what are some of your favorite moments for the franchise in 2024, the year of our Lord?
I think that the Bad Batch was surprising in the sense that it's not that I hadn't given it a chance. I had watched it, but then when we knew that we were going to be covering it, I was like, well, I have to watch season 2. And it kind of felt like a little bit of a job. But then after I think the first episode, I got so sucked in. And then season 3 was some of the best Star Wars storytelling that we've had. The performances were outstanding. Visually, it looked great. It was such a surprise hit for me personally, but it was nice to see other fans online talking about it. And it felt like such wonderful, like I said, closure for these characters. It was a rare moment for me where I was like, that was really satisfying, unlike the Acolyte, which we'll get into later.
We always talk about the importance of animation. Some of the best stories, I think, in Star Wars are in animation. Jen, what you're describing is what a lot of people probably feel. Like, I love that show. I didn't really watch a lot of the second season. I was doing other things. Does animation cause that back burner thing, or just life? And are you reminded, like I am sometimes, who's a Star Wars animation fan, oh, God, yeah, animation's great. Sometimes I have to admit I overlook that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think that there was, like, especially with the Clone Wars, there just were so many episodes. And it's like, if you could miss one because they were quote unquote filler episodes or whatever. But like, it just sometimes feels overwhelming, and it feels like the train has already left and you're trying to run after it to get on board. So it was kind of a nice little push that I could get on board. It wasn't like this was the 9th season or something where it was just not really going to be doable in a short time frame.
Well, Jen's trying to chase after the train and jump on it like Pee Wee Herman, but Joseph and I are the homeless men sitting in the train singing songs, waiting for Pee Wee on Big Bad Batch. Joseph, what are some favorite moments for you this year? And Jen, by the way, you got more. We'll come back to you too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I started off with Bad Batch too, because I agree. I think it's some of the best Star Wars storytelling. I think for me, in a way, it's always been, but it got even better each season, with being the perfect mixture of not shying away from the horror of the Empire, not shying away from the stakes and the emotional devastation that authoritarianism is going to wreak on people. It's rough. It's so rough. But then through our love of these characters, through the characters' love of one another, through the characters' determination to say, maybe we can't topple the entire Empire, but we can watch out for our own. That a show that is frankly as devastating as The Bad Batch is in my heart when I think about it is this little glowing box of love.
Yes.
Well, it's a show that just brutally, constantly, everywhere they go is like, reminder, this is now awful because of authoritarianism. Reminder, this is now awful. Hey, and reminder, they can't win, and they're going to barely even try to win. And yet, it's this glowing box of love is that's a triumph to the storytelling and the characters. In particular, I really love the Asajj Ventress episode. When it just kind of thought of season 3, what comes to mind, we're all caught up in all the fun canon lore stuff. Is Omega force sensitive or not? All that stuff. But for me, the picture of Asajj Ventress showing her like, look, when I reach out, what naturally answers is fury. When I reach out to the world, the first thing that comes back to me is anger. That's the quickest, easiest way. Maybe it's part of my nature that anger is first, but I can choose to say, I'm not calling you anger. I'm calling something else. It's such a great, powerful, and as Bad Batch always did, beautifully understated. So you feel it more than you think it. It is not spoon fed to you. You feel it in your gut, and then you stop and analyze it. And I think that was that Asajj Ventress reaching out, and the beast is what answers, and then she tames it and controls it. Is why the Bad Batch is such good storytelling. So much showing, not telling.
Bad Batch was first on my list too. And when I read this article and putting together the story, it's like, oh, I mean, I'm not joking. I was like, oh, that's right. That was this year. Oh, wow. And I can't talk about Bad Batch enough in terms of just how it's such a well-written show. It's a well-designed show. It is a show that started with low expectations in my heart because, all right, sure. And then it just goes hard. It's one of the hardest Star Wars shows there is in terms of direct political and social issue conversations and the dialogue and just some like, oh, wow, they're advocating for that. Okay, yeah, this show is what it wants to be. And I love it. And it's also, like I said, it's so warm. Yeah. That's going to be what probably is remembered mostly for it, and why we are interested in a book, and why we're still heartbroken over Tech, and hell, I still want to know more of Sid. Like, what I want answers, Sid. Like, it's because that found family theme runs deep, and it was so satisfying, and it's a great show to revisit. And what's funny, Jen, too, is your statement of it could get overwhelming. The train leaves the station, you feel like you're lost. Even on a rewatch. I have that like, should I do a Bad Batch rewatch? It's similar to like, should I do a Rebels rewatch? It's a lot. There's a lot of episodes. It's a little old school television in that way, which we like, but also, it's a lot. And I mean, anytime I start an episode, I'm getting with the Bad Batch where I can just watch. Oh, let me go watch that one episode. I love that, and be okay with it, and not feel like I need to be connected to every beat and every story. And that's a good sign too for the series. So big win, big win.
I love that you bring up Sid. What if the book was just a totally out of character? They're peacefully on Pabu and like, you know what? We need to go kick Sid's ass.
Let's go get Sid. Yeah, let's get answers. Let's get answers. Jen, any other favorite moments, or more of the Bad Batch, or more on the train that you're chasing after?
For the Bad Batch, no, that's it. I do, for me, well, no, I'm going to save that one. For the franchise, I'm going to say the Acolyte, because I think that people have been saying, we want Star Wars to be, edgy, and we want it to be more adult, which we got a lot, obviously, in Andor. But, we want Star Wars to take risks, blah, 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 legacy characters, 2 men. And the Acolyte did all of that, challenging me personally, how I view the Jedi, dark side users, the ideas on revenge. I felt cathartic, but also morally wrong, and something I had to wrestle with personally. And it just was fantastic. For me, it was what I was looking for in the Star Wars buffet. It's like, here is this weird thing that's fantastic, and I love it. But I know it didn't resonate with everyone, obviously. But it was an exciting series, and I really enjoyed it, watching it week to week. It was like nothing I ever anticipated for Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I think that should absolutely be listed in some of your favorite moments of the year, Jen. It's and Joseph, you said something earlier about It's a Wonderful Life or Thing, or all the movies that are people's favorites now on Letterboxd. Usually we're like, that's not good. Get out of the box office after 1 week back in '82. Like, that's just kind of how things work, where I think things get rediscovered, or your personal journey grows into the story. One of the things I love about Acolyte, and I do think it was a favorite moment of mine for the franchise this year, Jen, were the tough questions that it asked week to week, or maybe made you think it was asking, but you were asking it of yourself as a longtime Star Wars fan. And sometimes I was wrestling with it in a negative way of like, I don't know what this show is saying. But at the end of the day, I love that. At the end of the day, that's something that these stories can do and should do, of breaking apart this franchise we love and asking tougher questions, or just presenting it in a different light, or just telling a little bit of a different story, but it's still in the same sandbox. And that's part of the fun. It can get spun out pretty fast into the negative side. Not just in our words, but just in the fan base. But I'm with you, Jen. You saying, I like what it asked, made me think, but also I have to wrestle with that in myself, what I was bringing into it. That's powerful art. That's a big win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think for me, I put episode 5 in particular of The Acolyte, I think, because it delivered the promise of all those things that people have been asking for, of a different era, non-legacy characters, anything can happen. It, for me, delivered something that is very important to me of, I absolutely love Star Wars. I love all the trappings of it, but we really need to fight. I think the creators really need to fight to find fresh approaches of, you haven't seen that. I want to see a lightsaber, but I want to see a lightsaber do something I haven't really seen before. And I think the strangers attack, the style of fighting, just the awfulness of the Jedi shish kebab, the cortosis, the fact that that Yord and Jeki could die and it could be effective because they weren't legacy characters. The fact that you could really, really wrestle with, what is Soul's past? What did he do? And truly not know the answer. All those things made episode 5 in particular really, really strong to me. And I think I can get into some of my wrestling with Acolyte. But one of the things that I did like about Acolyte, and it's totally subjective and other people will disagree with me, is it offered us the Sith perspective. That's what it said on the tin. And I feel like the way it was written, and with the stranger in particular, it revealed to me once again that the Sith perspective is selfish and empty, because he spent episode 5 and then episode 6 in particular saying all these things that sound great on the surface, but all they were was a criticism of the Jedi, while taking no responsibility for his own actions. Everything he did, he was made to do by somebody else. And even at the end of episode 5, I believe, is that moment where he seems the most honest, the most self-reflective, that he's going to try to pick this new apprentice, this acolyte, and realizing, but I'm just going to have to torture her, and then she's going to try to kill me, and I am longing for connection, but the truth of the Sith is I will never have connection. So I really liked episode 5 because I felt like it had both all of these sort of the coolness of the fight, the promise of the surprise that you're dealing with non-legacy characters. And I think I got a little bit of the Sith perspective, is that it sounds so good on the surface, but it's just selfish whataboutism at the end of the day, in my opinion.
I think that was part of the discussion every week, and that was I'm glad you highlighted that particular episode. I think it was the best of the bunch in a lot of ways, and the cool factor, which is a total surface level discussion point, but I do think the coolness will stand the test of time. Just a lot of whoa. I think that was I don't ever want to undervalue that, along with the
Soul's. I should add Soul's fight with the stranger in the last episode.
Yeah.
You know, the all the philosophy and the Darth Plagueis and the tragedy of it not returning kind of overshadowed that, how cool that fight was between Soul and the stranger in the last episode, and that I love that the stranger could not beat him. There was no physical weapon. Soul was just too good. He was too good of a fighter. He was not going to beat him physically. And I think that was a really elegant tie-up of all of the, you can't kill him with a knife thing.
Yeah. Jen, do you have any specific Acolyte moments, lightsaber fights, lines of dialogue, shirtless baths, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, boy, I forgot about that fight. That was such a great dynamic fight I feel like it didn't get enough attention for being like, we haven't seen this in Star Wars before at this like Matrix style. It was so awesome. It was overshadowed. Just everything. And it's funny because I actually for the first time identified with the Sith, which is what made me challenge myself, where I was like, what is this? Obviously all of us have some aspects of the Sith and the Jedi, right? And that's what we're always wrestling with. And where do you go with that? And when do you turn to where you fully embrace it? As we see Osha after she does that fatal thing, where it's like the realization that she cannot go back. She has made this choice. You can sometimes in our lives, as we've seen with certain people recently in the news, you take that stand, you cannot go back. You will be held accountable for your actions, whether you may feel justified, right? So it's really, really deep stuff. And that fight was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and I agree. It's complex, and I think what is complex about it, to be very clear, is a lot of what the Stranger says in his criticism of the Jedi and the way the galaxy works and the way relationships works are absolutely relatable, and you feel it. But then he never answers a question of, well, how is his way going to resolve any of those problems? And that's what's powerful to me. Of like, yes, I want to be the Stranger. There's so many things in the world that I would like to Jedi shish kebab. But what would it solve? Is
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that question in 2025.
Yep, it's going to be real fun talking about Andor season 2.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh boy.
I'm so excited. That's part of my 25 victory. One of the final things for me, just what I'm calling the burst of Skeleton Crew joy. And I want to be clear, this isn't pitting this show against another show. It isn't pitting the reception to one show versus the other. I think Skeleton Crew was perfectly timed. Remember, this is a show delayed a year. It's not just about what had happened in Star Wars the last year or 2 years. It was just kind of the world and where my life is and what I was looking forward to, and have the show to just kind of deliver. And if I'm being honest, exceed some expectations on what it is about and what it looks like and feels like. And just seeing the love for Neil and his overalls and his hair, or Wim in his dreams, and Fern in her jackets, and KB with what she's learning. Like, I just really think we got ourselves a win on our hands in the fandom, whether or not the numbers translate. And I don't even know if that's just about Star Wars anymore. I just think it's the industry and all that kind of stuff. But it's a big burst of joy. I'm excited for every episode. I'm excited to even go and check social media the next day, which wasn't the case, and will factor into further points in this episode for me. And I'm just enjoying ending the year with this burst of joy. It's been wonderful for me.
Yeah, I think I strongly agree with that. Couple other for me. I really like the Beresafi episodes in Tales of the Empire. Yeah. I was frustrated that we left on a bit of a cliffhanger because it took us many, many years to catch up with Beresafi, and I'm afraid it will take us that many years again to catch up with Beresafi. But I really, in particular, loved her turn back to reclaiming the mantle of Jedi, and that line in particular. Then you have one Jedi left to deal with. That would, to me, was a great, like, yes, the Jedi make many mistakes and they should be questioned, but the core values of the Jedi are good, in my opinion. And that I liked seeing this character who had every reason to doubt and accurately criticize the Order come back to, let's strip away all the mistakes and the sort of the junk of the organization to the core beliefs. And I still believe in those core beliefs. There's an innocent person who's being, horribly attacked for nothing, for existing, and I will defend that person. And this is the core of the Jedi. That was a huge moment for me.
I'm glad you brought the Tales of the Empire. I still think the Tales of series are so wonderful and so well put together. And I give Dave and the team credit for that. Sometimes I'm a little harsh on Dave, and I've off camera said maybe I shouldn't be so harsh because I really do like the guy, what he does. But these are pitch perfect to me in a lot of ways. And I agree with you. the ending was, we questioned it at the time, but also just because we waited so long, and here we are. Let's do this, and we don't know if another one's going to come. We don't know if this story's going to continue. These tales of them are really good. So I'm glad you mentioned those. I kind of almost forget. Again, full year with a lot of things. Chad, any final moments for the franchise, and we'll go to some of our personal favorites.
No, I'm going to save my Skeleton Crew one for personal.
Personal. Well, then, all right. We're going to save that for right now, Jen. What are some of your personal favorite Star Wars moments this year? And we will begin with you and Neil.
Oh my gosh, and Neil's dad. The picture of him cracks me up.
So many questions.
That is hilarious. So many questions. For me, Skeleton Crew, I really did not have high expectations for it. I figured it would be fine and good. I did not expect it to be freaking fantastic and something that my whole family look forward to every week, where my daughter is like, is it Skeleton Crew? When's the next one coming? I love that. And it's not just that she loves it, it's that I love it too. It plays on so many levels. My husband enjoys it. And I just think that it's really, really great. And I don't know, it's one of those things where it's not on a movie level to where I can really feel the fandom like united, right? When a Star Wars movie comes out, it's like there's this energy amongst the fandom. This is a quieter energy, dare I say a cozy energy that's in the fandom. Those who are enjoying it are sharing their love of it. And those who are not enjoying it, I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm in a bubble being on Blue Sky, but it's quite pleasant.
Yeah, I feel maybe bad actors aren't finding their way in to make it an issue. And maybe, legitimate Star Wars fans who are not bad actors are just like, yeah, this one's not for me. Which is like, thank you. That's fine. Let's all be like that always.
Yeah. Seriously.
No, I think that's, and look, yeah, I don't think we're in a bubble on it. I just think it is more well received because of, for many factors. Again, it's not about any other show versus, it's doing something special at a special time, like end of the year, kind of everyone's like, oh, okay, hey, this is a fun adventure, and it's damn good too. One of the things for me. I love that. I love what you're saying too, Jen, in terms of this being a personal favorite Star Wars moment of Skeleton Crew time at the house. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Never anticipated that.
Is the family watching it on Christmas Eve?
Oh, yeah, except now that I'm thinking about it, my mom's going to be here. Oh, God. It's one of those things. I don't know if your parents are like this, but it's just like she has to ask so many questions. And I already have the 5-year-old asking a lot of questions. I don't need my mother to also chime in. What? An elephant? What is that?
Why are his eyes all black, but his dad's eyes have pupils? What's going on?
What's going on with it? That's right. No, oh my God, that's right. Joseph, you just hit on what that picture was doing to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure, and I like it. I like his dad. What's his name? Dad's name, like Noel or something like that. I was like, why is he? Yeah, you're right. Pupils.
It's the pupils.
I hadn't thought of that.
It's his piercing gaze.
Well, Jen, you can get to the decision that my mom reached about 5-6 years ago when she called me up and said, I'm canceling Christmas. We're not celebrating it anymore. So don't worry about coming up and visiting, or I'm not going to you. So you can do that if you want. Just make that proclamation.
Oh, elves to move and magic to make.
Magic to make, elves to move, orange juice to clean up. Joseph, I got to imagine one of your personal favorite moments, unfortunately for you, involves me. But what do you got?
Well, it would be really awkward if I said, nah, or if it was an entirely different moment.
I actually would.
Time we went to the smokehouse.
I would respect if you're like, actually, no.
Yeah, you're talking about the Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace screening, yeah.
That whole 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace weekend, so we went to see Phantom Menace, and then I was actually going to a horror convention in Seattle because there's a screening of the short film we did, Nightmare Adorable, and I actually bumped it back so we could see Phantom Menace in a theater with people who were just there celebrating, and it was great. It was great to see it on the big screen. It was great to hear details with a better sound that I hadn't heard in years or maybe ever. It was great to have everybody applauding and whooping it up on the way there. I picked up Billy D. Williams' autobiography at a bookstore. So I was holding that while I was watching this. And then I read, when I got on the plane, I brought the Living Force book with me, and we have been doing the book reviews. And I just like, I'm in such a Phantom Menace mood. I want to spend time with the entire Jedi Council, because it was this really great moment of truly not feeling any pressure to be like, well, if I don't read this, I'll miss out on a detail, or I have to read this because we're reviewing it. It was just like no, this is what I want to read right now. So that whole big mess of Star Wars love was from seeing Phantom Menace live, reading Living Force on the plane. It was definitely one of my moments. How about you, Ken? Did you have me say this because it wasn't one of yours?
Yeah, nah, man, I really hated my time with you that night. No, it was great. No, we had a wonderful time, and plus we met up before for dinner with Sarah and Grace, and I got to break out my Black Safe Rebels Phantom Menace pins and put them in my jacket, and like I have a $20 popcorn bucket I've never used. I bought that night. It's other than that night we devoured the popcorn, but it's up there on my shelf, and it's covered in dust. But I'm glad it's there. And not to start out negative, but there was every once in a while we'll put out some shorts or reels, and that always brings in people that aren't general listeners of ForceCenter, don't really know us or the vibe, and they're just different Star Wars perspectives. Totally fun. Someone left a comment on when we we did last week, where we talk about weird, wonderful characters we'd love to have come back into Star Wars. Meeber Gascon, whatever. And Jen, you had said Jar Jar, and we celebrated the Jar Jar return. And someone left a comment of, oh yeah, the crowd would be booing or in disbelief that Jar Jar would be back. And I was like, wow, you have completely missed the boat. Because that Phantom Menace screening was a packed theater, 2 levels, the El Capitan, and Jar Jar got cheers. And it isn't just about the prequel generation. It is about this love of this silly, weird franchise, and he's at the center of it for a lot of reasons. That and Watto getting an applause break. Like, it was fun, and it was fun for me to be there 25 years later, remembering going to it and being excited and all the hoopla and then the disappointments or the questions and the 25 years of this thing with the prequels that we come and go. But just having, the prequelists are out there, and they've always been there. That's the key. They've always been there. And just to sit there with a good friend and colleague, to sit there with some Phantom Menace merchandise, and just seeing everyone around you choosing to be there to celebrate it, as opposed to 1999. It's like, Court, you weren't going to miss it, right? This was like 25 years later. Oh my God, yes, we're going to go see Phantom Menace. It was near, in many ways, maybe superseded past convention joys, right? Which the big burst of, oh my God, Ian McDiarmid just came out and said, roll it again, or a new trailer. That's a special kind of joy. This was like that, but in another way, it was just more emotional because it was 25 years of getting to this point. So, love that moment.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Yeah. Jen, any rebuttal to any comments about Jar Jar?
Yeah, rando commenter, you're like the droid that in the recent Skeleton Crew episode where they're like, did we win though? Did we win it in the war or whatever? Did we win the battle? Because like so much has happened since the Phantom Menace came out. And listen, I was blowing up my Jar Jar action figures. I was doing all sorts of things, strapping a rocket to him. Okay? I was one of you. But we can grow and we can change and we can find the joy. And even if you really don't like his sense of humor and the Pratt comedy, fine. But when you watch a kid watching it, they're going to be laughing their butts off. That you find joy in that, right? And I think it's just kind of like, read the room, buddy. Like, we've moved past that. Like, you're stuck in the 90s.
It was one of my favorite parts of the screening, as I expected the applause, and that was delightful. But then there were the laughs at moments that are intended to be funny, and then there were good-natured laughs at some of the awkward or weird beats of the Phantom Menace. But they were good-natured. They're like, we all love this, so we can kind of laugh at this part that's wonky. The same way we grew up with people being able to make fun of the original trilogy because there was no doubt of the love.
Yes.
You could make fun of Obi-Wan Kenobi saying only Imperial stormtroopers are this precise, and then joke that they never hit anything else again, except for R2 and Leia. Anyway. You could laugh at the Luke and Leia are siblings because there was never any doubt that it was coming. Like, but we love it. And for years and years and years, it was hard to have a good-natured laugh at Phantom Menace, because if you had a good-natured laugh, then the conversation would immediately go into, and George Lucas should be put in prison for this and that, and it was always followed by the anger. So it was also great to have the good-natured laughs at the part of the film that are weird, they are awkward, and like that's one of the reasons I love it. It's a wobbly three-legged table. The whole franchise is to me, and that's one of the reasons I love it. The good-natured laughs were so great.
God, Jed, I love that comment you made. It's such the battle droid thing. Turn me back on. Did we win? Right? Did we win? I just assume. And I just experienced this in my day job life at the channel I write for, of just this assumption that I would hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as an Indiana Jones fan. Nope. No, I don't. In fact, I actually really like it. Flawed? Yes. Perfect? No. Rank lowest? Sure. I'll give you that. We have moved on from our determination in 2008. There's a lot more going on with this. Sorry. Sorry. As was said in the Martin short, Steve Martin, Father of the Bride, welcome to the 90s, Mr. Banks. Welcome to the 2020s. We've changed. So, Jed, I think that's a great comment. Yes. Move on.
Yes.
Move on. For me, that was kind of the big thing. I just wanted to focus on one or two things. Personal favorite moments. Any other for you? Any other moments for you, Jen?
No. No. I'm gonna save it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joseph, are you gonna save it? You're gonna save it too?
No, I'm not. I got two others I'm going to share.
Go for it.
I'll keep it short. Action figures are a huge part of my relationship with Star Wars, and they always will be. So I wanted to highlight just a couple moments. Turned 50 this year and tried to make a thing of it. Did the live show, and then on the night before, and then on my actual birthday, just went around Los Angeles doing things I love doing. And I knew I wanted to get a Star Wars action figure, and I really wanted it to be like the right one. And my wife and I went to this great store called Blast from the Past and got these nice, weird Luke Skywalker action figure. It's the 30th anniversary one, where it's kind of trying to be all at once all of Luke's adventures at Jabba's palace, because it comes with a giant bone to stick in the Rancor's mouth. And it wants to be Luke's hand after he's been shot, but before he's put the glove on his hand. But the way they did this is just putting a giant red dot on the back of Luke's hand. So it looks like Luke went to a club and he got a stamp. And this is the way he gets entry back into the club. It's a delightfully awkward, silly action figure. But I looked at that one. I looked at a bunch of others. And there was just this, it's like the set, like the force flowing through me of like, this is the right action figure to celebrate your birthday and your long relationship with this franchise. So delighted by that. Right before we started filming, the day before we started actually filming the horror feature that we just filmed in Minneapolis, I got a new Kenobi action figure as a reminder to be a Jedi on set, to be calm, to resist the instinct to frustration and anger. So action figures as representatives of the core ideas of Star Wars were really there for me from the silly to the deep this year. So action figures. And the last one I want to share, and maybe it'll lead into struggles and challenges, is going back to the old Acolyte. One of my personal favorite Star Wars moments this year were all of our live streams. I've really been enjoying the live streams where we can share our thoughts and opinions, but it's also more of an immediate conversation with fans of Star Wars and fans of ForceCenter. And it's loose and fun. But during the Acolyte, there was a lot of really fun speculation. There was a lot of really fun poking fun at, but also loving Yord. All sorts of speculation on is Chimera the Stranger. It seems pretty obvious. Is it true? So like all of the fun of being in the moment of it. And then when the show was challenging and when the show wasn't renewed, there were episodes, live streams where we really got to mourn together and discuss why it was painful. And I also want to shout out that the Acolyte, as you have discussed so well, Jennifer, it was an entry point for other perspectives, other lived experiences in the real world that people felt like they saw themselves in Star Wars. And it's one thing for me to sort of understand that intellectually. It's different to be on a live stream and be hearing from a real person in the moment. Here's how I saw myself in a way I haven't before. And I'm really grateful for that. And I wouldn't have that without the live streams. So the live streams in general, but particularly around the Acolyte, both the celebrating and mourning were one of my highlights for Star Wars personally this year.
I'll echo that as well. It's been a lot of fun, and especially even now that we take calls, we get to hear directly from people in a newer way. And yeah, you know what, Jed, I got to throw that in the last second of personal moment was seeing this show through your eyes and trying to meet you there on that, and a show, by the way, that I really enjoyed was special. It also forced me to keep the show away from my fiance. She's like, we should watch it. I was like, no, you shouldn't. You'll kill me. you'll go full Sith. But I joke. I do eventually want her to sit down and engage with it in similar ways to you. I think it was tremendously valuable week to week to come in with a lot of my like, but the Jedi, and you're just over here like, yes, the Jedi. Let's talk about the Jedi. It was really valuable and fun in a lot of ways. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it was such a great discussion. There were just so many layers that we could peel back, and hearing everyone's experiences, the way that they received. And sometimes I was like, I feel like I'm on an island, and then you see people and other people chiming in, going, yes, I see that too. And it's like, okay, I'm not a cuckoo bird for doing this. And I'm like, I think that the show is putting this out there, but I'm not sure. And then being able to talk with you guys about it and work through it, it's like, oh, it's wonderful. It's why we love art, is to be able to dissect it and hear everyone's perspectives and how they see what we're all collectively watching.
Yeah, absolutely. But this year, as I don't want to say as every Star Wars year or more than any other Star Wars year. I don't know where I want to go with that, Joseph. You help me through the themes of this question. I want to say, what were the struggles and changes we experienced in 2024 as Star Wars fans? Struggles with the franchise, struggle with the fandom, struggles with ourselves, good and bad. Jen, you're talking about some struggles that I would say are good. Of who am I? What is this art asking me? Like that's kind of a victory, but it might be something that changed you. So, Joseph, I'll start with you at least for an idea or two on this question.
Yeah, I think that in 2024, nothing exists in a bubble or in a vacuum, truly. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some kind of storytelling stuff with Acolyte that I'd love to talk about that I was challenged by. But a lot of it, of what is going on with Star Wars and Star Wars storytelling is, I think, a part of the reason that we keep ending up talking about business so much, because Star Wars is affected by... We're past the honeymoon of the streaming and Star Wars being television shows, and now we're into some of the problems and the awkward growths. And I think Star Wars is being affected, and corporate decisions are being affected by a push towards progress and a push towards inclusion and equity in the real world. And now it's such a literally violent pushback against that I think some of the challenges when I look at my challenges, some of it is really about the way business decisions and my feeling about business decisions and the world feeling more mechanical and distant, and people championing the utter hollowness of AI. Maybe a useful tool, but in terms of art, it's hollow. And all of these things in the real world that are affecting me, I realize are like, that's what's causing my different in challenging relationships with Star Wars, is that it's reflective of the world we live in, both the business decisions and sometimes the storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It's a weird time. Everyone keeps saying that, right, Jen? It's a weird time. That's one thing on your list, I'm sure, Joseph. But Jennifer, anything else or anything you want to start off with your struggles and any changes you experienced in 2024 as a Star Wars fan?
Yeah, I think that obviously the Acolyte, the conversation around it was very trying. And I think, what's interesting is that we were really going through a rough period there. And a lot of it was actually Twitter, now known as X. And I would see things and comments and tweets would be pushed up. And oftentimes it was just because good faith fans wanted to argue and rebut whatever this person or these people were putting out there. But it just was kind of upsetting. And now, since I've left that place and I'm now on Blue Sky, I'm not seeing as much of that where people are amplifying those negative comments or toxic comments and, arguing with them, or because I just don't think it's really, sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's too much garbage going on in the world, too many things to already make us upset that have real world consequences. I don't need to see your ridiculous take on a Star Wars show. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm concerned about people's rights being taken away. I'm sorry that you don't like having more women in Star Wars, bro. Like, let's get a grip on reality here.
Did we win?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and like the ridiculous things being used as cudgels of like, great, hey, if you're really attached to the backstory of Ki-Adi-Mundi and the Syrian people, and you're upset about the changes from Legends, like if you're a good faith fan and it bumps you out, I get it. I'm sorry, I don't like it when some things get changed. I get it, but I think more people are not good faith fans who are like, oh, the Syrians and Legends in their lifespan was one of my favorite things about Star Wars. I get it. Those people exist, but so many people just like anything to batter this show. Like, is ridiculous and exhausting, and maybe getting to that point of, again, not being in a bubble of like, Twitter was bought by a madman and a zealot who must be stopped, and I don't think everybody was on board about that this summer. I think the signs were there, and to me, as much as I sometimes just need and want Star Wars to be escapism, the absurdity of people being mad that a woman wrote Star Wars is directly tied to that zealot in what he promoted.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It all matters. And what you're experiencing, Jen, is something I'm experiencing too. And we're using our term bubble because I just don't know other things for it. I mean, it's just calm. It's just it's absent of all the things that we were experiencing, not just on the other site, but in that certain time period. I think, to me, this kind of switch a lot of people to Blue Sky. A lot of people in my life are not on Blue Sky, and they're off the other spot, but they're not there. They're just kind of like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And I think that's part of it. Even me on Blue Sky, who is now more active, who's now more directly political on Blue Sky, it's because of like, you know what? I don't care about any of it anymore. I'm just going to be myself and post what I want, do what I want. And I'm not giving the energy to what you're describing, Jen. Like, my theory is I didn't see that guy ever on my own. I only saw the retweets.
Yes.
I never sought out any of that guy's content, but I saw it rebutted and fought and debated in my feed, and that's what's going on there. And now I've separated myself from that, and it's helped. I know we're talking about struggles, but this is also the changes. Is that's part of what I've experienced in the latter half of this year is. Or maybe the last couple months of just like, we don't have to play that game anymore. And to your point too, Joseph, the weekly debate on is Star Wars alive or dead, and when it comes down to that, the Ki-Adi-Mundi of it all, like you said, changing information or something new, that can sometimes ruffle feathers. It might,
be a bummer.
When I go well, now they're saying this about post background. Got it. But it was the energy of, and now they're changing Ki-Adi-Mundi. See, we've been telling you this stuff for a long. Get out of here, Battle Droid. We're so done with that. Anyways,
Yep.
That was just one of my changes. That was it. End of conversation. No, Joseph, anything else on your list there?
I think on the business side, I think sometimes my joy was impacted by the release schedule that we're in right now, where I think there's a combination of factors. I think there's the just more is more, and I know people disagree with me about this, but the amount of stuff that's coming out on May the 4th, the books and Tales of the Empire, and this isn't this year, but like episodes of Mandalorian and Bad Batch being released at the same time. Now we're on to the Skeleton Crew of like, I really, really want to watch Skeleton Crew at 6 p.m. Pacific when it comes on. I can't on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and what are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
and it might work for lots of people. Obviously, it does, and it should, and that's great. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of decisions about what gets put out that leaves no room to savor. Um, it doesn't leave time for people to build a relationship with things and fall in love with them. And I will. I'm not yelling at a cloud. This is not. This is not in times change, ages change thing. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it.
I feel you.
Uh, um,
Mm.
it is a choice that we can make about how much we treat art and storytelling as content to be shot out of a cannon as fast as possible. That isn't just times change. That's a choice. And I think it's a choice that can begin to diminish our connection with it. If you have no room to savor, if you have no room to think about it, if a kid has no time to play Skeleton Crew on the playground, that relationship is not going to be as deep. Those ideas aren't going to come to the surface and affect your life because it's a philosophy of content is king, pump it out, pump it out, pump it out, and that general energy is affecting not my love of the actual storytelling, but like I can't love the storytelling as much because I don't have as much time to savor it because it's just pump it out, pump it out, pump it out, and yeah, step off my soapbox.
No, it's a good box to get on. It is. It's. I sometimes feel, like the first time you see Coruscant and Rick Ollier tells you it's an entire city, but like just everything's around you. Or the first time you get to New York, if you ever, you're just like, whoa. That's sometimes how it feels, just in this content world of just like boom, 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 boom. I get asked all the time, "Hey, did you watch that one series?" No, I don't have. I know I don't have time. And this isn't even
Yeah.
Star Wars. Like no, and it's because it's just hitting upside you of the face, and so I like slowing down. I don't correct me if I'm wrong. This isn't just us as Star Wars broadcasters bemoaning the release date. We'll delay our episode a couple days. That's no problem. What you're talking about is just as a fan, the ability to sit down and go, it got robbed a little bit. Bigger problems in the world, even as Jen reminds us earlier. But like, yeah, I think it's this comes off as such a studies show, stats show that we could release it at this time, and it's just a little frustration.
Yeah, yeah, and I have no idea if it's true or not, but yeah, it feels like numbers on paper said it'll be fine to release Skeleton Crew on holidays, and I just kind of feel like common sense. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're responding, and I've been responding to it too. All of us have the disposable nature of art, and that if you have a streaming platform, as basically every studio does, every network does, you have to fill it with content. And if you have, it really focuses on like the quality rather than quantity rather than the quality. But this is not just with the entertainment industry; it goes into clothing. Manufacturing cheaper clothing because you want to make it, more affordable. But then now you have people buying so much more than they need. The same thing with toys, right? Like it's just disposable, more, this excess, and it's ruining our planet, it's ruining our art. And I don't know if it's going to change. We have gone so far off this deep end, not to get so depressing, but it's like, how are we going to rein this back? I'm like, I'm paying so much money for all these streaming platforms. Why? Cable was quite good. Like, can we go back to that? Like, with reruns of your old favorite shows. I watched the most horrible movie, and I love Jason Bateman, but gosh, that movie on Netflix, Carry On, was not great.
ForceCenter exclusive. Jen Lander reviews Carry On.
But you have a streaming platform, you're pushing it. I kept seeing it. I'm like, well, it must be good because they keep pushing it. But in a couple of days, they'll be pushing something else. It's just like overwhelming. And I don't want to say that Star Wars is falling into that trap, but at times, like you're talking about with the release thing, it kind of does feel like they feel the pressure to release more and more and more, to make more announcements. Don't worry, guys, we're having more content coming down the pipeline. But as Star Wars fans, that's not what we want. We're different than perhaps a lot of other consumers, right? So I don't know.
And I feel like the storytelling is remaining fresh. And this year was even, some really good variety at the buffet. And I understand, like, publishing sometimes going to put a big book that people are excited about out on the same day that an episode drops or whatever. That's fine. And I know there are a lot of fans who disagree with me on this and want as much Star Wars as possible. I think even in a market where, look, you need toys, you need books, you need animated series, you need live action series, you need movie news, and you got to keep it coming, there could still be a lot more elegance in separating it out and giving things room to breathe. You know, how much was lost because there's no room to breathe between Last Jedi and Solo?
Yeah.
You know, and it's not even, to me, it is partially about the amount, but it's also about the cadence and the way it is. Like you're talking about, yeah, Netflix is forcing people to watch Carry On because it's unavoidable. People are talking about it at the water cooler because it's unavoidable, because they made it so. They pre-decided that you will like this movie because you cannot look anywhere without seeing or hearing about it. Hey, have you heard about the new Die Hard on Netflix? They decided ahead of time it was the new Die Hard, you know? And I want time for it. Goes back to Acolyte too. I think Acolyte will be discovered, and I think people will be like 5 years from now, like, why didn't they follow up on Darth Plagueis? Why didn't we ever get to say what May and Osha truly decided to do with their freedom? Did May and Osha ever actually escape the Jedi and the Sith and make their own decisions? Was May ultimately happy? Did she end up having? Did she and the stranger walk away from the Sith and they lived happily ever after, just eating soup and bathing together? What happened? You know, and I think the Acolyte is also a victim of the not giving things time to breathe.
I agree with that. It's not just an older generation yelling at something. It's you know, we're all excited to move forward and try to do things, everything. But when someone's like, hey, there's great value in going to a record store and just holding something in your hands and feeling it and connecting it and talking with the clerk there and seeing it, that's gone, even though there's some great conveniences of all the songs in the world on your phone, unless they decide to take the songs away. Yeah, that's all it's about. That's what it's about.
Yeah. Wow.
Other things for me, I struggled a lot. I don't want to rehash it with the fandom thing. I struggled a lot with the fandom and this year and last. But more importantly, you have to you put the mirror up to yourself, and it's just, who am I in this fandom? And this is outside of being a ForceCenter personality alongside the three of you for over 10 years now. But just, who am I? What do I want to be? And when you don't know, sometimes, I don't know, it can affect you. And I got a little grumpy this year. I said, you know, Jen and I did that episode about the Denis Villeneuve Ewok silly news, but like, you know, I'm not fun to be around at parties anymore. You mentioned Star Wars to me. I'm almost ready to start a fist fight with you, just based on you pulling me in the conversation. I get really angry. I get red-faced. People are uncomfortable around me. Because I've just been so, don't know what I want to do with my lifelong love of this franchise that's not going away. And so this year, one of the changes I experienced towards the end of the year, and it was the burst of joy from Skeleton Crew and all the stuff of like, no, I'm okay. It was some stuff you said, Jen, too, of like, we spent a lot of time in our youth, this is from our generational perspective, having to fight for our place as Star Wars fans at the table, and I'm just talking about society, that I still feel I'm fighting. And I can put down some of the weapons. I can leave some of it behind. I scaled back a lot this year. Stop collecting the comics. Stop reading the books, even though I do miss all those things, believe me. Got rid of a lot of things. I'm not suggesting other people do that, but I've sold or removed a lot of Star Wars from my life because I just realized I had built up a bitterness to being, I walk into the party and, oh, hey, a Star Wars guy is here. Well, I want to do, can I be something else? Can I be something else? You know, I'm the guy, and we're all probably experienced. We're like a friend who hasn't seen me in 10 years. Hey, I got you a Christmas gift. What is it? It's a weird Star Wars pencil. I don't want this. I don't want this. Don't. And that was this was the first year I really struggled with that. Really, really struggled with that. Well, I was like, I want to keep going. I want to keep talking. And so therefore, every week when Kiadi's Monday Age was a debate and Star Wars was on trial every week, I just disengaged more and more and more, which made me more unhappy because this is something that I love. And at the end of the day, you hold the mirror up to yourself, you find your place in it, and you lose nothing by scaling back. You're still a Star Wars fan. You lose nothing by not reading some of the comic books this time around. It's not a competition. I couldn't win a trivia contest against Joseph or Alex in the end because that's my place in the trivia battles. That didn't take anything away from me. And it wasn't a fight. And I've spent a long time. I said in the news episode, Jen. I've spent a lot of time the last 10 years defending Star Wars. That the franchise doesn't need to be defended. I can just enjoy it at times. Defending people, groups, causes. That's a different conversation from just the franchise. That's been going on for 50 years. And if they never produce another thing tomorrow, it will still go on for 50 years. And that was the big change this year. I struggled, and I've emerged, I think, stronger as a Star Wars fan.
That's great. Well said.
Jennifer, how do you feel about that, about realigning the way you engage with Star Wars so that it is still something that you love? Do you feel like you've been going through that process as well?
Yeah, copy and paste what Ken said. That's exactly it. I started off the year really grumpy, and then the Acolyte and the backlash around it, the conversation around it made me really angry, really feeling like I have to defend it. And at some point, it just overtakes your life. And it's like, why? Lucasfilm isn't paying me. Why is my mental health suffering? For what? Why am I giving my energy to these people? This is just silly. And so, I'm not talking about Lucasfilm. I'm talking about the toxic fan base. And then it just wasn't fun for me to even watch it or get into it. And for me, Star Wars has always been like a form of escape. It's been joyful. And this year it was not joyful until now. Quite frankly, with Blue Sky and Skeleton Crew, and just me coming to terms with what you're saying, Ken, I don't need to prove to anyone that I'm a Star Wars fan. I know in my heart how much I love this franchise and how long I've been a fan and how we've kept this franchise alive in times where there was nothing. There was nothing except for some weird books that people used to make fun of us for reading, right?
Yes.
I'm all right. I don't need to prove myself. I don't need to show you my room full of all my lightsabers and collectibles, although that's great. Yeah. It's okay. I can give them away to people that will enjoy it more than me. Because like you're saying, Ken, every time I go anywhere, it's like, you're the Star Wars person. It's like,
yeah, we all have.
But I'm more than that. It's not just that's just one part of my identity. I'm now a Blythe collector. I love the 1980s. I'm learning speech language pathology. I just want to be seen as a human and not just a fan.
See, and I think this goes back to what I was going on about at the beginning of this section. Of this is not just about Star Wars. Yeah. This is about we all love Star Wars. We all come from a background of being more traditional performers. We all want to survive financially. And the way being creative online has really been shaped by algorithm and rich people and the most base of human instincts of you need to be only one person. And it's not even enough that you are all about Star Wars. In fact, you are all about Rebels. And in fact, you are the biggest Zeb collector. And in fact, you have the biggest Zeb tattoo on your back. That's not just about Star Wars. That's about genuine love being pushed in this inhuman way to be to be about what is the best way for me to be seen, to feel seen, to hopefully make money. It's algorithms forcing us into boxes. For myself, in my soul, Kenobi is. I'm a huge fan of Kenobi, and he's always going to be a huge part of my life. And if Star Wars got canceled tomorrow entirely and everybody hated it, I would still search out Kenobi action figures. That is my truth. But I'm not starting a separate goddamn TikTok to prove to anyone that I'm the biggest Kenobi fan. It's just my truth. And I will spend a day not thinking about Star Wars and thinking about other things that I love and other things that I'm interested in. And then I'll go to Target and I'll see a Kenobi and I'll be overjoyed. And I don't need to put it in a box. I am not less of a Star Wars fan because I have other loves. And we do not need... If you see a weirdo in the background and it's your favorite and you want to post about him every day and it's genuine, I love it. And that might happen to me again. I love the weird little alien at the beginning of the Acolyte sucking up the soup and called him Soup Sucko. I loved him. Loved him. Great. That was genuine. I do not want to try to make money off of or prove to anyone that I saw him first. I posted about him first. That stuff takes something that is genuine and I think it twists it into a game.
Branding.
Well,
And yeah, and I think some amount of branding is normal. We can only remember so much, and so when you see a friend who wears a green T-shirt every time you see them, in your mind that becomes green T-shirt friend. That's the way our minds work. But that doesn't mean that's the way we need to see each other. We can have the imagination to know, green T-shirt friend probably has a lot of other interests and experiences, and I know them as green T-shirt friend because that's the tip of the iceberg of what I see of this complicated human being, and it is not impossible for us to, every time we interact with somebody, imagine that even though I only see them post about birding, they probably have other things in their life, and they're probably a full and complex human being.
Mm-hmm. We'll close.
Sorry.
No, we'll close with some positive Star Wars stuff too. But yeah, what I came close to being this year was, and I'm light spoilers for season 4 of Only Murders in the Building. It's not a major plot point, but I just need to discuss it because it was perfect. Kumail Nanjiani plays a character who is all Christmas. His apartment's Christmas. They're spying on him. He's got Christmas sweaters. And they meet him, and he's like, I hate Christmas. And they're like, what are you talking about? He goes, I started posting Christmas content because I'm a fitness TikToker or whatever. And then people liked it, and I became the Christmas guy. And now I have to do it every year, and I hate it. This was the year that I got pushed to the boundary of going, maybe I hate Star Wars because I'm tired of having to. It's the only thing that works. It's the only thing people want to hear from me. Got it. I'm Team Y-Wing. I said that 10 years ago. And at the end of the year, I've pulled back to the point where I'm like, no, yeah, I do love the goddamn Y-Wings. Yeah, and I don't need to prove it. I don't need a shirt to prove it. I do. I just am it, and I live it, and I pulled myself back. That's why I'm saying this is positive. Of like, this was a change this year. Of going, no, I'm not going to be in that corner of the Christmas guy. I'm going to find something else. I'm going to be a robust human being, but and that will make me love this even more, almost as much as I did in 1983. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and for me that I think was a positive change as well. It's why I highlighted it, just like I'm making time for the Living Force because that's just so my exact Star Wars nerdery of like. I love that there was just a weird alien with a long neck in the background of Phantom Menace, and now there's a book about his thoughts and feelings. And of course, I'm going to make time for that because I want to. I felt the same way I got about halfway through catching up on High Republic Phase 2, and I read it because I wanted to, and I made time for it. And it wasn't about proving anything to anybody. And I think, it's important for me that I think listeners, viewers hear that all of this Star Wars love is genuine. Everything that we share with you, if you love that, I love that, you have a different perspective. This stuff is all genuine. I think what is disingenuous is the games that social media and society are asking us to play about it. The love is sincere. The way we are sometimes asked to express the love, to validate it even to ourselves, is what we are pushing back on, in my opinion.
Yeah. I look the new version of Star Wars Rank comes from that spot of I don't need to do an exhaustive research-based list of my top 5 favorite mustaches in Star Wars. I'm just going to talk about it now. The other version might come back at some point, but it's more of just like, just have a beer at a bar and talk about Biggs' mustache.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
All right. I don't know. Sometimes I get in my head. I'm like, I don't want our longtime listeners to think it's too negative. Well, no, this is just a raw, honest take of this year. This is what the year did to all of us, I think, in our own different ways. But look where we're ending. Man, can't wait for Skeleton Crew tomorrow night. I'm so excited to celebrate that. What is one lesson that Star Wars taught you this year? Out of all that, and the Acolyte, Bad Batch, this and that. Jen, what was one takeaway from Star Wars?
I learned that Star Wars has always been a very insular experience for me. It's been very online for me, connecting with people in the online spaces. But this year in particular was a year that I discovered that I like being around Star Wars fans in person. There is nothing like watching Return of the Jedi in the theater with a bunch of Star Wars fans, or being able to watch Skeleton Crew with my family, obviously if I'd been able to go to the more recent Star Wars Celebration, which did not happen this year, but happened, when was that, last year? Was it last year?
2023.
Mm-hmm.
there's just something about being around other Star Wars fans. It's like, oh, that's right. This is why I love it. This is there's a bunch of people that love Jabba as much as I do. And it's just fun. And it helps me get out of myself and remind me that, people are not going to be coming up to me being like, I hate the Acolyte. You suck in real life. They may online, but in real life.
You flew to London to tell me this. All right.
Exactly. You're not going to have somebody randomly saying that to me. So I appreciate that. It's much more civil and fun. And that's what being a Star Wars fan is all about.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons that the live streams are such a highlight for me, because it is just a place of community, and we've built a place where people can have different opinions, and it can just be an opinion, and it can be a discussion point, and the loves, the hopes, the doubts, the fears, like just all of the things can be expressed in a form of community, as opposed to a game of is Star Wars good or bad today.
That's great. Yeah. I'm with you, Jen, on the in-person is always better, unless it's me at a party going, no, Acolyte is good, and I'm going to beat you up if you disagree. That's kind of where I was this year. Let me tell you why Dial of Destiny is my second favorite film, and if you don't agree, we're out in the street fighting. And I'm going to punch like Harrison Ford. Quickly for me, a lot of things I think I'm talking about here are that Star Wars, this franchise, this story, this saga that a man in flannel and so many other wonderful people created 50 years ago is still going strong. Star Wars is big enough to hold my doubts, to hold my questions, to hold my anger. It's big enough to even hold my boredom sometimes, where I'm just like, I'm not in a Star Wars mood. It still goes on. My love for it still goes on. I have translated that into a lot of other things in the last couple of years. Things I believed in, things I was raised, parties that I was affiliated with, where like I can question it, I can change. Then I myself, even with these doubts or even with these little boredoms, even in my own life, I can still go on. I can still find myself, and I don't lose myself into all that. I have translated that from Star Wars and my experiences as a Star Wars broadcast. By the way, I definitely want to be known for being one of the three talking heads here in ForceCenter, because I have great pride in what we've done here for 10 years. Love what we do and love the community built up around it. I don't want that to go away. I don't need 15 Y-Wing t-shirts anymore. But I've translated to my own daily existence, to even about what I think about myself can change, to what can I give up, to what are the obstacles I'm putting in front of me to keep me from growing, change, success, some of the goals I want, even here at ForceCenter, of what can I take a little extra time and not hold on to things I've thought about myself or my failures, and I'm big enough to take those challenges and move forward. And Star Wars and I are moving forward together in a better spot, and therefore I myself in my personal life can. So thank you, Star Wars. Joseph?
Yeah.
Take us.
No, I think that is absolutely fabulous. I think the ending of Acolyte challenged me partially because I just felt the story was unresolved, and I felt like it ended in a tragedy, and I still wanted to know. I agree with all the thoughts of how cathartic it was to watch Osha make some of the choices she did, but I wanted to see, what do May and Osha choose next. So I was frustrated with a Star Wars story that in just that one season feels to me like a tragedy, and I want to know the next choice. I want to know the next act. So I was frustrated by the end of Acolyte. I was frustrated, not even so much with the storytelling, but that the storytelling didn't continue, and all of the like the Ki-Adi-Mundi age kind of broke me. Of like, I don't want to hear anybody's. I don't need to. Yeah, we've got our live stream for our community. I'll watch Star Wars, explained, and I'll get some community. But like, I don't want to talk to anybody about Star Wars at a party. And in that, I think I got to take some of our own medicine that we talk about on ForceCenter, of not every part of Star Wars has to be for you. Of like, it's just right now the modern moment of Star Wars is not giving me joy. So like, I spent time, rewatching Attack of the Clones, and buying action figures from back in the day, and I picked up an old Starlog magazine from I think 1980, after Empire Strikes Back had come out, saying, "Will Harrison Ford return as Han Solo?" And I just found joy in Star Wars of the past, and I think that lesson of Star Wars, I think, Ken, you have said this. Star Wars isn't going to live and die on every episode.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't like one episode came out that you didn't like and Star Wars is dead. If it didn't work for you, if that show didn't work for you, take a breath and go play with your app, or AT-AT, whichever is correct for your generation. I think that was a good thing.
Yeah.
And then final thing for me, I know you only asked for one, Ken, but I'm sorry. Maybe my next year I'll answer only one. I think there are a lot of times this year where the core values of Star Wars, the core ideas of the Jedi, that being calm and trying to acknowledge anger and maybe let it fuel you to make a choice, but then not making a choice in anger, but instead asking yourself, what do I actually want? What is best for me? What is best for everyone in this situation? And getting yourself to that point of calm where you can you can be determined, but you can make a decision based on truly wanting to help others and help yourself. Those just core Jedi philosophy. And as we get into, a very challenging time across the globe where there is a retreat back to strong men leaders and authoritarianism, that these core ideas of Star Wars of we cannot give up hope, that hope is this fragile thing that is not the belief that everything is just going to work out fine, so do nothing, ignore it all, and it'll work out. Hope is what you need to cling to keep pushing and fighting for a better day. And I think that idea of what does hope really mean is going to be deeply needed. And I think the core tenets of the Jedi, the core tenets of Star Wars are going to be a guiding light in difficult times for those of us who love the fun, but also the really deep philosophy of the franchise.
Well said, indeed. Always end on hope. It's a good way to look at things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. We have looked back on 2024. A lot of great things in it. It was, as we've all three explained, a challenging year in terms of Star Wars and our fandom and a lot of things in the world. So we're honest about that. But we look towards Neil, his overalls, slap ball, and hope at a highly charged political Andor season 2, which is going to be fun in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. All right, let's go home. Let's get out of here. We're at ForceCenter Pod. You can find us on social media, especially Blue Sky at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Podcast is available in a lot of spots. Just search, you'll find us. We're still a podcast first in our hearts. So check us out on all the places you can get podcasts. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter, or down below if you're watching on YouTube at our Fourth Wall link. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Help us reach our goal 2 away. Get into that Discord where a great community of Star Wars fans has been and always will be. You can follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, kennapzok.com, for tickets if you're local. January 10th, Flappers headlining the Yoo-Hoo Room, January 10th, 7:30 p.m. And on the docket is a lot of great comics. Karen Haber, a Comedy Store original from the 80s. Lisa Gottman, one of the first people I've met in comedy. Elisa Phillips is just a fireball on stage. Winston A. Marshall. And this guy named Joseph Scrimshaw, who is a tremendously talented stage performer. And I want you all to get to see him on this show. So come on out, January 10th. Information on my website. Jen, where can I find to follow you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Jennifer Landa whatever their Blue Sky handle is.
bsky.social, yes.
Thank you. bsky.social, not the other social. And you can find me on Instagram, same handle, and TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go. Joseph, take us home. Where can they still support your film and find you?
Yeah, you can find me on January 10th on the Yoo-Hoo Room stage at Flappers in Burbank doing Ken's big show, which I'm very, very excited about. And I hope some ForceCenter friends can come and join us there. I've been having lots of fun thinking about, wow, what should I do? New stuff, old stuff, a combination, all that. And you can find more information about the film stuff I'm working on my website, josephscrimshaw.com. There is a link to continue to support the horror film that we filmed. So the production is done, but a lot of work left to be done on the post-production and a lot more fundraising, unfortunately for me, left to be done. So if you would like to contribute to that, there is a big link on my website, josephscrimshaw.com.
There it is. There you go. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.